Spectre Vision Radio.
How long has it been since Bobby and I came to an end? Sometimes I can't even get it straight. Sometimes it feels something like forever. Perhaps that's not even the right way of framing it. We didn't come to an end. I came to an end. Bobby is still going, I know that much. Whereas my existence post-Bobby is no existence at all. That's probably in part due to how good it felt before everything changed, before I landed here. The time when Bobby and I were very much in love. That was when I was most alive. It's like I'd only been experiencing a fraction of what it meant to be human before we met. Bobby was like a firebomb, igniting parts of me I hadn't even realized existed. She made my interests turn into passions and instilled in me a deep curiosity for, well, everything. With her as my conduit, the world suddenly felt like it had become almost impossibly detailed, a source of infinite mystery and excitement. And she'd been the one to open my eyes to all that. Until we met, the radius of my existence hadn't been wide at all. My social circles included only people with predictable connections to me. But Bobby, on the other hand, knew so many people. From those who'd made a success of themselves in all the ways you're told you're meant to, and through dinner parties at their beautiful homes, to those on the fringes of society who held unusual beliefs and gathered to experiment with practices unknown to the mainstream, and everything in between. The portrait of her life contained more colors than I knew existed, and she was inviting me in to see and experience them for the first time. But this place, the space I'm in now, is the opposite. Color doesn't exist here. Neither does joy, hope, or perhaps most importantly, anticipation. It's so limiting, so narrow, like living on a tiny island, one you can see the edges of no matter where you are. I sit in the spot where Bobby used to sit next to me. Sometimes, my hand still reaches for hers in that idle way it would in all those quiet moments we were alone together. The kind that really means something, when actions you're not even conscious of deciding guide you only to expressions of love, when affection runs so deep it becomes automatic. My existence is what I imagine that of a ghost who can't move on to be like. I head down to the waterfront and haunt all the spots we used to frequent together. Our favorite restaurants, bars and cafes, and I have to deal with everyone asking me where Bobby is, and what happened, why I'm there alone. But when I open my mouth and try to speak the truth, try to get the horrifying secret I carry around with me off my chest, nothing comes out. All I'm capable of is empty excuses. It's like I'm running a script, over and over, again and again. So I wrestle alone with my part in what happened, what I did. What I did. When did things start to change? I think it was gradual, but Bobby's energy shifted. Ever since I'd known her, she'd always been a flurry of movement, the kind of person who's always blurry in group photos because they can't keep still. She darted around life, trying to take it all in, leave no stone unturned, and I bounded along behind her. But she'd started to slow down, and it was like her perspective shifted when she did. Rather than just gleefully experiencing things, she started to give me the impression that she was constantly trying to calculate how and why they worked. Like life was becoming some kind of science to her. She constantly analyzed people's motivations after every interaction. and questioned the true, greater meaning behind every situation we found ourselves in, no matter how trivial it seemed on the surface. Everything became profound, but in a way that she seemed to want some kind of mastery over. It didn't take me long to develop a theory as to what was going on. Bobby had been spending more and more time with one of our more eccentric groups of friends, a collection of outsiders who were heavily into mystical beliefs and practices, and extremely keen to involve her in them more deeply. I dabbled in it too. To start with, I'd found it fun, entertaining, like a quirky hobby, and I assumed that was all it was meant to be when it came to Bobby and I. But the group had formalized things since I'd first met them, and had come to refer to themselves as the Norns. I'd already felt myself pulling away for a while, finding the seriousness with which they'd begun to approach what I'd originally thought of as a casual curio off-putting. What I'd loved about my life with Bobby was that we'd always felt like tourists, fleeting from one thing to the next, staying only long enough to see the good, but never long enough to feel the bad. But now it was as if Bobby was taking root as a resident in the Norns' strange world. And I didn't like it. It was changing her. Bobby's intrigue in occult practices started to seem more like an unhealthy obsession that dominated her thoughts at all times, the prism through which she viewed life. It created tensions between us. Bobby had opened up the world for me, and I didn't understand why suddenly she wanted to narrow it down into this peculiar, shadowy little corner. She became secretive, withdrew from me. I started to feel alienated, then resentful, then lost. And then, I met someone else. How long ago was it when all that happened? I don't know exactly. What I do know is that at some point, after it all went down, I was skulking around this town that had once been our home, but was now only mine, and looked out at where the water should be, and realized it wasn't water at all. I ran as fast as I could, tracing this island-like space all the way around, until I realized this entire place exists within a perfectly circular ring of ash. I closed my eyes, tried my hardest to convince myself it was just the heartbreak and grief making me see things. And when I opened them again, I was staring out at the ocean, the way it always had been. What do I remember now? I remember Bobby said we needed to take a trip, just the two of us, talk everything through and see if we could reset somehow. She'd taken the liberty of booking a secluded cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Nothing for us to do but deal with each other. With us. I agreed, and vowed to myself I'd tell her everything. The affair, all of it. Maybe there was a path back to who we'd once been, no matter how distant that seemed. We made the drive out in silence. I wondered if she could sense the war that was raging inside me. How anguished I felt, how guilty, and the clawing desire for her to understand and forgive me. Every time I did venture a glance her way, she just smiled, an eager kind of grin, and said something about how much she thought the trip would change things. Change things. How do I do that? Why does the truth of what happened come and go? Why can't I hold on to it? What I do know is that at some point, the people I recite my pathetic, vague script to, the ones who knew Bobby and I as an item, I began to see them differently. One day, they stopped looking quite like people. It was like there was something artificial about them, almost like they might be something else, and just wearing an almost entirely convincing human suit. I'd only catch brief glimpses, a face that didn't fit right on its head when looked at from a specific angle, like it might really be a mask. A pupil so dark it made the eye look like an impossibly black stone. A walk that would suddenly, for an almost imperceptibly short moment, shift into a disconcerting shuffle. But the next time I saw them, spoke to them, went through the usual motions, I couldn't see any of that, and began to question my own mind. What's really happening to me? And what is it I'm forgetting? I remember now. The place Bobby took me to for that trip, that cabin out in the middle of nowhere. The surroundings were beautiful, but it was as secluded a place as I'd ever seen. No sense that anyone other than us existed out there. The cabin itself wasn't in great condition. It was strangely bare, in that way properties can be when no one actually lives in them. Sparsely furnished with old wooden fittings. No personal effects or flourishes. It felt desolate, but it didn't bother me, and I didn't think to ask Bobby about how she'd found the place. My mind was way too occupied, bracing for the moment when I told her the truth, told her my secret. Bobby cooked, and as she did, I ran through the script of what I was going to say to her once we'd finished eating, how I was going to lay it all out. The way I felt gave me the best shot at her understanding me, of her forgiving me, of her wanting us to go back to what we'd once been. We ate in silence. My brain was going 1,000,000 miles an hour, too fast for me to even taste the food I was forcing myself to gulp down. But Bobby seemed to be doing fine, offering me that same eager smile every time I looked up from my bowl. It made me look away each time she did, fearful that I was about to pull the rug out from underneath her, when she was really looking to figure things out and give us a fresh start. Once we'd finished eating, and we were just sitting there, opposite each other in the almost deafening silence of that cabin, I finally built up the nerve to speak. "Bobby, I need to tell you something," I said. But those were the only words I got out before she stopped me. She told me that I could skip whatever speech I'd rehearsed, because she'd known about my affair for a long time. And she wore that same smile as she walked me through every step of what I'd thought I'd been doing in secret. She knew every detail, every lie I'd told, and where I'd really been, and what I'd really been doing. She knew everything about the other woman I'd been seeing, in such great depth that it was almost as if she knew her as well as I did, maybe better. "Why are you only telling me this now?" I asked. Bobby paused, still grinning at me, a grin I no longer understood. "I just needed time to figure out what to do about it," she replied. She kept speaking after that eager, anticipating smile growing ever wider across her face, but I can't remember what she said. My ears began to ring, a high-pitched hum that blocked out her voice, and my vision became unfocused, my head spinning. I tried to get up, but stumbled and hit the floor, my body turning limp. I heard the door to the cabin open and the footsteps of multiple people entering. I saw the bottom of their legs as they came into the cabin and hoisted me up, carrying me outside into the cold night air. I tried to fight. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. And then what? What do I remember? I remember being placed onto the ground in some kind of clearing in the forest. I remember chants in a language I didn't recognize. I remember being able to move only my eyes, darting them from side to side, and seeing strange shapes I'd never encountered before, arranged all around me in flickering red light. laying there on my back, the people who'd carried me out of the cabin, started to come over and peer down at me. I remember them wearing these awful, ill-fitting wooden masks that were strapped to their heads with leather buckles. Masks that had no eyes. Masks that had been carved into sickening, blind grins. The same kind of grin Bobby had looked at me with. Then I remember hands around my neck, wrapping something around my throat. Some kind of thick string with some kind of amulet on it, being tightened until I couldn't breathe. I remember that those hands around my neck belonged to Bobby. And I remember her taking my life from me. What do I remember now? Well, I remember why I'm here, what I did. And this is the punishment Bobby deemed appropriate. How long it'll last? I don't know. Sometimes, those moments when it truly feels like I've already been here forever, I feel like that question doesn't even matter. Like maybe it doesn't even make sense. Sometimes, I catch those glimpses that remind me that the people in this place are really monsters, posing as people I once knew. A face that doesn't fit right on its head when looked at from a specific angle. A pupil so dark, it makes the eye look like an impossibly black stone. And I don't even flinch. That's almost worse. I'm used to it, but can't change it. Stuck in a loop, one I have no idea if I'll ever escape from. Sometimes, I sit on this island and look out at the ash where the water should be, and I pretend it's still the ocean. Sometimes, I'm able to picture it so clearly. Other times, I can't remember what it looked like at all.